Hi there, business owners and marketeers. In today's video, we're going to share 10 tips from SaaS businesses CEOs who tell us what they would have done differently if they could restart their business today. You can learn from them and grow your business faster. Before we get started, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Pathmonk. But now, let's get started. Tip number 1.
You think you're going to learn one or two things and it's going to be okay. No. You're going to learn things every freaking week, every freaking month for the next 20, 25 years. I mean, that's learning never stops. I'm still learning things today. And today we're at 10 million ARR. We have 70 employees. We have 6,500 clients all across the globe. So we look successful from the outside. And there are days where I look at how I run the business and how we do things, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. So, it never stops.
Tip number 2.
We all imagine these like slick, slippery salespeople who will sell ice to an Eskimo and can get anybody to buy anything. But in SaaS, that doesn't work because you want them to stay on the next year and the next year, and you want them to really benefit from the product. So the first advice I got online was to interview them, is to let them talk about it and to be the first to say, you know what, I don't think I might not have the right tool for you. Let me share it with you. If it is, I'd love to sell it to you. But if it's not, then there's no hard feelings, because not everybody's your customer. You definitely don't want to sell it to someone who's going to write a bad review a few weeks later.
Tip number 3.
Is as soon as possible, just invest in like the latest tools, invest in your people, like just get the best people possible. Like, you hire amazing people, they can do things you haven't even thought of to really push it forward. So I'd say the people, the tools, not to sound too generic, and then just really focus on the product. So one thing we would do is we'd be even more focused on the product in terms of probably the amount of integrations we did before we opened up the system. That's a big one.
Tip number 4.
Maybe get a little more focused on the user profiles, on the buyer profile, and the kind of, go-to-market segments. It's certainly, if you build it, they will not come, right? You have to go get them. You have to drag them home, and then maybe they'll be interested. So, maybe getting a little more aggressive about the go-to-market sooner rather than later.
Tip number 5.
I think one of the advices that's easy to give but hard to do, especially as an early stage company, is optimize for success. And so I think, one of the things that we did as a company is we tended to, we're moving commercial payments, which means we move very large sums of money. So you can't be like a social network where you fail fast and break stuff, right? It's $1 billion of the company's money in the wrong place is very important. And so we took security and trust very seriously. But what that meant was probably our earliest customers tended to be a little bit smaller customers. And the reality is our company's value prop actually gets better the bigger the customer is, the farther in the journey. And so I think if we would have done it over, we probably would have much more early gone after the types of companies that we knew we were going to sell in the long run.
Tip number 6.
We knew that we want to focus on developers at the very beginning. We want to focus on tech guys because it will be easier for us to talk to those guys, to show them the product. But frankly speaking, obviously, we didn't follow that rule because the first prospect, the first lead which arrived was non-technical at all. He had some, requirements really far away from the original pipeline of the development for that product. Yeah. But yes, it was a really hot lead for us. It was really close to finalize that prospect. So we decided to change a bit and pivot for few steps on the right, and actually add those functions which were requested by that guy. I'm not saying that it was a wrong decision, but probably I would change that approach and more focus on our strategy and on our idea of having an ideal customer.
Tip number 7.
I would say that become better at marketing earlier would be I was like, okay, went from 0 to 3 million without a CMO, right? Just I was doing the marketing and I'm really not qualified. I'm not as proficient. If I could do it all over again, I would have figured out a way to spend more money on marketing and invest more into marketing than I did. So I was spending money on marketing, but not enough, because I've learned that while my bias and my background is sales is important, so is marketing. And so I think we would be way ahead.
Tip number 8.
One of the things I would have done differently is I would have spent more time mapping out the different markets that we should have gone after. So, and I guess in retrospect too, in all fairness, we didn't know who our buyer was. And so we probably needed to go knock on doors and make calls anyways.
Yep.
But if we had spent a little bit more time taking our wish list of clients and then mapping out the similarities between our wish list, probably would have saved ourselves 2 or 3 months of just hard work of phone calls, because we would have found more commonalities.
Yep.
So being strategic, sometimes it's not how hard you work, it's how smart you work.
Tip number 9.
I think one of the things maybe we would do a little bit differently is maybe pull forward sales and marketing a little bit earlier. And the reason is, if you think about what we're doing and the problems we're solving, the problems aren't new. Virtually every company on earth has issues with their CRM and data issues and usage issues and compliance and engagement issues. That is not a new problem. But what is new is how we believe companies need to be solving them. We think the wrong answer is to buy another heavy, pointed solution that you need to log into, and then you have 50 different tabs in your web browser open. We think the right solution is to have that elegantly consolidated into a beautiful medium where people are working and prefer to work as a human. And that just requires education, it requires awareness.
Tip number 10.
It's going to be really, really hard, and there are going to be times when you're going to break down and, cry in a ball of tears on your sofa. But that's okay. That's kind of how it should be. And if you're not doing that, then you're not moving fast enough. You're not trying hard enough. It's just relentless, actually. And I think that just being really resilient to everything that comes up, like, people are going to tell you to fuck off. They're going to sort of always try and push you away. But it's just fighting through that and trying to be really positive and, in dire situations, which is that's what being a startup's all about, really. It's glamorized quite a lot, but the reality is pretty grim.
These were 10 things CEOs would do differently if they could start their businesses again. Hopefully you found them helpful. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Pathmonk. If you want to hear more of their thoughts, tune into our podcast, Pathmonk Presents. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, or go to pathmonk.com/presents. See you in our next video.